Welcome, everyone. Well, I've said it before, I really do love my job, and I love that in this moment right here, I get the honor and the blessing to spend a few minutes with Amoda Maa, who will be presenting next weekend at the Many Paths One Self Conference. And I have a couple of words for anyone who may not know Amoda Maa. And I'm going to read them so that I get them right. Amoda Maa offers a profound invitation to all those who wish to embody the truth of awakened consciousness in the midst of everyday life. Her life and work are dedicated to supporting this inner transformation and envisioning a new world of peace and enlightened living. Since 2016, Amoda Maa has been living in the US, and today her teachings are followed by a growing global community. She has written 5 books with translations in, according to this, 6 different languages, and her work continues to evolve in alignment with the real-life concerns of ordinary people seeking to go beyond division in an increasingly divided world. It just feels good just reading that. Thank you so much for taking this time to be with us, Amoda Maa. I'm so grateful.
Thank you for that lovely introduction, and it's lovely to be with you again, Cindy.
Yes, I was saying, it's like we have a standing date twice a year before each of these conferences. It is definitely a highlight to have you join us. And one of the things we were talking about before we hit the go live button was the fact that this conference in particular is pretty unique because we've brought in teachers from all over the world and all sorts of different traditions. I mean, from Sufism to A Course in Miracles to various forms of Advaita or non-dual from all over the place, and quite a number of people that just have awakened to the truth and have a very unique way of sharing it. And I'm hoping you can share how the truth flows through you and what it means to be part of a conference with so many different paths and traditions, all speaking about this one truth.
Yes, as you were speaking, Cindy, it really struck me how in my personal journey many years ago, I had immersed myself in so many paths, from Sufism to Tantra to Buddhism to all sorts of modalities, sort of spiritual and psycho-spiritual modalities of many forms, many teachings, A Course in Miracles as well. And all of them enriched and pointed to something on my own path and my own growth. And naturally, I discovered they were all pointing to the same. And I had an inkling of that on my own journey, but it didn't really sink in until I actually, at some point on my own journey, I'm not saying this is for everybody, I let go of everything. I let go of everything because I realized that any grasping of knowledge or understanding was standing in my own way. So I let go of that. But in letting go of it, I discovered that they were all pointing to the same. I just had to discover that for myself. And I always say that what I offer does not have any path or tradition in it, and yet it's imbued with everything, with all the beauty and the richness and the grace of all paths. But in order to really know it for yourself, one has to go beyond knowledge, the accumulation of knowledge, And I'm, I hope, if you like, or that's what I offer. Is that it's that edge, the edge between what has supported and served us as a path, as a teaching, as a pointer, in many different ways. Even the work, the inner work that we do on ourselves. And then there's this kind of edge where it's almost the self or the mind or that part that takes ownership of anything can't go. And that's like falling into the unknown. And then perhaps if we're lucky or if we're ripe, then we discover the truth that was always there in all those paths, in all those teachings, in all those pointers. Then we discover it for ourselves. And then it's not affiliated to anything. It's the perennial truth. It's the truth of our beingness. It's the truth of what's always been here. So that's what came to me as you were speaking of all these beautiful rivers all flowing into the same ocean.
I'm inspired to ask, and it just came up, but I've heard a number of teachers just in the last couple of days in a way that it hit me, use this word luck. And I just heard you use it too. And my sense is that all of us here who's listening, right? I'm sure everyone here who's listening probably doesn't know quite how they got pulled on this journey and this, I don't even know what to call it because seeking doesn't feel quite right. Um, and then I've heard teachers say, and then on my path, I was lucky enough to step into this new realization. Can you talk a little bit about how perhaps what it means to be when we're lucky enough and how it's worthwhile, even though we can't control when our vibration raises or when we awaken? I've heard that time and time again. Do the work, but leave the timing. So leave the timing to the gods or to something outside of our control, right? But then I've heard these teachers say I was lucky enough to realize, but there is a place where luck meets preparation, and there is a purpose to studying these teachings, yes, and being with teachers like yourself in that preparation for that lucky moment. Does that question land?
Yes. It's an unfortunate word, luck. And I think we have to perhaps see it in its context, because it's not being offered here in a conventional way. It's not that we're lucky or unlucky, that, I'm lucky that I've awakened and you're so unlucky that you've not awakened. It really is not on that level, on that horizontal divide level of division. And it's not that you're more worthy because you're lucky you have awakened or you've discovered something and you're unworthy. It's really not that. So it's unfortunate that it has those connotations. So we have to be careful how we use it. I think the way that it's used and the way it popped out here, it's not a word I usually use, is in the sense of, and I think you touched on this, Cindy, the discovery, when it's discovered, of the truth of our beingness, is actually not to do with the doer. It's not to do with the one who's making the effort and the seeking and the so on. In that discovery, you discover that was in some ways a fantasy, a phantom rather, a phantom self, a construct of self. So in that sense, it's a kind of ripeness that just happens. We can call it grace. Again, I experienced it this way on my own journey. Although I was a deep spiritual seeker and did a lot of work on myself, it was when I had stopped seeking. It's when I had stopped. Well, I wasn't seeking enlightenment or awakening. I was seeking peace or happiness, the same thing, but it sort of happened by itself. It wasn't of my doing. It wasn't because I had progressed on the path. It wasn't because there was some linear process that took me there, or some path that I followed, and it's certain that you're going to get there. So it's in that sense that the word luck is used. However, like you said, there is a ripeness, and that ripeness has to do with preparing the ground, with doing the inner work. If anything, again, although that inner work doesn't necessarily have a cause and effect, it doesn't take you to the destination. It just simply creates the environment, the inner environment, for the possibility of that which was always here to reveal itself. And in that sense, that's a kind of luck or grace or an unexpected moment. When we expect it, it doesn't take place. When we demand it, it doesn't. When we, are trying to reach a destination, then it doesn't. These are all impediments or obstructions from the self construct to try and become a better self. And it's really not about that. It's beyond that. It's the undoing of the self. And there's another perhaps meaning or reason why we can say luck or ripeness is that it's almost if we're ready or ripe on the human journey through the long vista landscape of personal suffering, that we've experienced in our own lives, or it's a kind of it sort of often feels very collective. We've been carrying this for lifetimes. Now, I don't particularly believe in an individual lifetime repeating itself, but we are all one in that field, and so we carry, or we bring with us the collective experience over this lifetime and this culture and this age and so on. And at some point we come into this incarnation, into this individuation, and it's as if we know that ancient karma, we know that ancient suffering, that collective field, that archetypal field, and it brings an existential inquiry. Who am I? What is the meaning of life? Is this it? Is that, and so on. And that's lucky. It might not seem lucky because we're suffering. We're in the dark landscape. We're in the desolate landscape. We're searching for meaning, or we're feeling existentially alone and all of this. And that may not seem lucky, but that is precisely the fertile ground out of which the deeper inquiry can emerge, which may bring us onto this path and this path and this path and so on, until that ripeness itself allows the whole thing to fall open and undo itself and reveal what was always here, but obscured by many self-definitions, self-identities, and so on. So I think that's a kind of broader, deeper meaning of luck.
It's beautiful. And I almost forgot we were doing an interview. I was just falling into, I was falling into the space your sharing opened up in me. So thank you. The title of your presentation or talk or teaching, whatever we want to call it, at the conference next week is Knowing the God-ness in Everything. And you and I talked a little bit before we opened, so I have a sense that the specifics of this presentation will reveal itself in the moment, right? That being said, can you share with us the flavor of what this title is offering in this moment?
Yes. When I was invited to the conference and the title of the conference was presented to me, my immediate response was knowing the God-ness in everything. My first book was actually called How to Know God in Everything. And it really spoke to this many paths, one self, or many paths, one truth. Because my direct experience of godness came to me, revealed itself to me in my own personal experience of awakening. And I had never used that word before. It was, apart from references to it in, I don't know, does the Course in Miracles point to that? But, you know, the word God was too conventional for me, too religious, and so on and so on. But in awakening, I realized what God is. It's the godness in everything. It's the totality. It's the beingness that is always here. The beingness is one. It's not a beingness with a boundary. It's the unbounded beingness of what is. It's the totality of his existence. We could even say it's the totality of existence and non-existence. Yeah, if we can kind of stretch ourselves to that. So it's everything and nothing. To know that you are that. I mean, my experience was merging into that. It was like a full energetic immersion into the totality, into the everythingness and the nothingness. And that brought to me an understanding, if you like, or a deep knowing of the godness and the goodness in everything. Now, again, I use the word goodness, not in the conventional sense, because there is harm that's done in the world and so on, or harm done to ourselves by ourselves. But the essential goodness, the essential godness, the essential isness of everything that is inclusive. Everything is included in that. And that ended the separation, that ended any separation between me and life. Because if there's me and life happening to me, then I'm a victim of that, or I'm at the behest of that, in that life can do good things to me or bring good things, welcome things, or it can bring unwelcome things, unwanted things. And I'm a victim of that. This ended the victim identity. I and life are one. And so I'm really speaking to that.
Thank you. I really felt that while you were sharing. And look, I told you, I told you what we started, that we would spend 15, 20 minutes together, and that's what we've done. I don't know where time went. It's pointing to the illusionary nature of linear time. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to share at all before we let you go? Man, this has been wonderful. I'm so grateful.
Thank you. I'll just end with a quote from Rabindranath Tagore. In order to find God, you must welcome everything. Yeah, and this is speaking also to that which I'm speaking of. In order to know your essential nature as godness, the totality, the wholeness, not the separate self that is alone or is unworthy or is not enough, but the totality of beingness, the deep, the depth of our own beingness, which is not our own, but is the totality of beingness. In order to know that, you must welcome everything. That means ending the argument with what is. So this is also what I speak to. To me, this is non-duality. It's not the sort of more current zeitgeist of non-duality where I am not this, I am not the body, I don't exist, nobody's here, and the world is an illusion. I mean, it includes those truths, if you like, but it's a true non-dual experience, a non-dual knowing that I and life are one. There is no separation. All separation is created by the self-construct, and at the same time, we do exist as individuated life forms. So how can we know all of that? The totality that is one, inseparable, and the appearances of individuals and individuated entities, things, objects, life forms. How can all of that be the oneness of being?
Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone who's here listening. I'm so engrossed in these conversations, I don't go and check on Facebook who's still there. But um, please register for the conference. Come and spend 90 minutes, I believe, with Amoda Maa, along with 24 other um, teachers from all over the world, all pointing to this same universal truth. You can attend live for free. Just click that button that's that I put in the comment section, and let us know you'll be there. Thank you so very much, Amoda Maa.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you,
My heart
everyone
is
who's
open.
listening. Lovely. Bye.